FM News Talk 97.1. On demand audio.
I had read that Jennifer Rubin stated, anyone who thinks that Ohio's current treasurer and the Republican challenger for Senate against Sherrod Brown, if anyone thinks that he's a pushover because he looks young, he's a couple of years older than I am, but he looks about 7 years younger than me, that they don't understand his background. First of all, he's a Marine, and Marines aren't really known for being pushovers. Joining me on the phone right now is Ohio's treasurer and Republican challenger to Sherrod Brown for the to become Senator of Ohio, Josh Mandel. Good afternoon to you, sir.
Hey, Dana, good to be on.
It's good to have you on. Well, first and foremost, I have to run something by you. I have to compliment you on the fact that you did not point your finger in my face and yell at me and run away simply because I'm attempting to ask you a question. I don't know whether or not you're aware that that's what your Democrat challenger or your opponent, Sherrod Brown, did. But I had the experience of meeting him in person, and I can see now why the polling between the two of you is starting to shrink. Let me say that.
I appreciate that. Yeah, Sherrod Brown's been running away from his record for a long time. I mean, Ohio's not a liberal state, but he was named the most liberal senator in America a couple of years ago, and his voting record is just way out of whack with our state. And because of that, he's probably trying to avoid you and other journalists and citizens who are asking him questions. I know there's been a lot of citizens in our state who've just been trying to ask him questions at events, and he just looks them in the eye and ignores them and is relatively rude because he's trying to run away from his record.
Well, yeah, and this is what why I really started getting interested in the Senate race here in Ohio, because it's very similar to my Senate race with Claire McCaskill and the Republicans vying to be the Republican Senate nominee to challenge her in the fall. You guys also passed the Ohio Healthcare Freedom Amendment. It's similar to our Healthcare Freedom Act, where you passed an amendment to your Constitution. This passed by over 65%. People who were basically refuting Obamacare at the state level, and yet Senator Sherrod Brown was the deciding vote on Obamacare. How angry, from everything that you see being on the campaign trail, how upset, how frustrated are individuals that here's their Senate supposed to be representing them, and yet he voted against over 65 citizens in his own state?
I think it's one of the main reasons why the polling is so close now, and we actually, in the most recent polling, took over the lead with independent voters, and a lot of it has to do with that issue, Dana. Sherrod Brown cast the deciding vote on the federal government's takeover of health care, and citizens of our state, your state, Missouri, and other, especially throughout the Midwest, we don't want the federal government running our health care system. I mean, if we have the federal government running our health care system, it's going to look like France or Canada or some of these other countries throughout Europe where you have to wait in line for 6 months to see a doctor and 1 year to get a surgery that might save your life. Sherrod Brown, though, Dana, he actually set himself apart because when he voted for Obamacare, he essentially said, you know what, I'm going to hold my nose and vote for this, but it doesn't go far enough.
No.
And he was one of the radical extremists advocating for the single-payer option, which obviously would be destructive to quality and access to care for citizens throughout our state. And he's just a radical. I mean, that's probably the best way to put it.
And that's interesting that he phrased it that way, too, because it's very similar to what Claire McCaskill had said. And then just last week, in an interview with David Schuster at Netroots, he had said that he stands by the president on health care 100%. He stands right by Barack Obama. So I guess his position sort of evolved. But in talking about records, I wanted to get to your record as well, because really the only thing that's kind of working against you, from what I can tell in Ohio, is that you don't have the name recognition that someone who spent their entire professional life in elected office does. And your record as state treasurer has been highly rated. I was looking at the ratings that you've received from Standard & Poor's and from a number of ratings agencies about how you managed the state's funds, essentially. And you've, across the board, I've only seen the highest praise of your record.
I appreciate that. Yeah, when we came into the Ohio Treasurer's office, it was a fiscal nightmare, and there were a lot of ethics issues in there as well, and we cleaned it up. Right in the wake of 14 government funds being downgraded throughout the country, and the U.S. credit rating being downgraded for the first time in American history, we are in the highest rating on the multi-billion-dollar investment fund I manage. That was from Standard & Poor's, or in the highest rating from Fitch on some of the bonds in our office. Our liquidity portfolio is up about $2 billion since the day we took office. We navigated the European sovereign debt crisis, not only without a loss, but actually with a yield on behalf of taxpayers, and cut the budget significantly. And the story we have to tell from the Ohio Treasurer's office contrasts in a very stark fashion with the unfortunate mess that people like Claire McCaskill and Sherrod Brown have perpetrated on the citizens of the United States of America. And both of them, McCaskill and Brown, they're just failures. They're way to the left of their states, and they've gone Washington. The guy we're running against has been running for political office since Nixon was president and has been in Washington for 2 decades. And the people around the state are starting to realize if he was the answer, our problems probably would have been solved long ago.
Oh, absolutely. There was an article from Politico just a few weeks ago, and I recently asked some of the senatorial candidates here in Missouri about this issue, because you're obviously, if elected, you will be dealing with Obamacare. That's going to be one of your first things to do in Washington, D.C. as a senator. There was this Politico article which stated that some of the Republican leadership in Congress were considering, depending on how the Supreme Court acted, if they were going to throw it out in partial or in whole, of keeping the, quote, popular and more consumer-friendly portions of Obamacare in place. If it came to that point and you had to decide to stand with, some of the old guard leadership there and keep sections of this in place, would you stand with them, or would you go with grassroots and the majority of Americans who disliked this bill and continually do in throwing the whole thing out?
Well, I'd have to see, exactly what they were referencing, but by and large, I think the thing's a disaster, and I feel very strongly that when government is running businesses, they run them into the ground. You look at some of these businesses in Washington right now. I mean, Look what they've done to the Postal Service, Dana.
Oh, yes.
They're talking about now canceling Saturday delivery and shutting down post offices throughout the country because these guys have run it into the ground, unfortunately. And, Amtrak, Fannie and Freddie, the list goes on and on. And so it just begs the question, why in the world would we want Washington bureaucrats, faceless bureaucrats, running the healthcare system? And so, I'm a proud conservative. I mean, before I'm a Republican, I'm a conservative. And before I'm a conservative, I'm an American. I was proud to earn the support of Senator Jim DeMint and the Senate Conservatives Fund. We were the first Senate candidate in the country that he endorsed. The Club for Growth was there supporting us early on. And, I consider myself a full-spectrum conservative, and I'm proud to have earned the support of conservatives throughout the state of Ohio and the country.
Yeah.
At the same time, we got a ton of Democrats and independents helping us. And there's a lot of Democrats in Ohio who go hunting on Saturday, church on Sunday, and believe in peace through strength.
Right.
And while they're Democrats, they're not ultra-liberal, and a lot of them are supporting our cause. And we've been able, on our website, our joshmandel.com website, we've been able to engage a lot of people. I'm 34 years old, so we're trying to leverage technology to engage a lot of young people as well, which is a strong suit of ours.
And I've noticed that with your endorsements, I mean, you've run the gamut of getting Red State. My friend and colleague over at CNN, Eric Erickson, you've been able to get Red State. You have Chris Christie. You have Marco Rubio. You've been able to attract who individuals see as ultra-conservatives while at the same time attracting these moderates. And you're sort of bridging the little divide there in Ohio, too, which is you don't really see that in a lot of candidates. And it's good to see someone new conservative blood come up and challenge this dinosaur of the Senate there.
That's what we need. We need fresh blood. I mean, what we say is, in order to change Washington, we got to change the people we send there. We can't keep sending the same people there and expect different results. Can't keep trying to square peg into a round hole and expect different results. And what happens is, when you do that, you end up with people like Sherrod Brown, who've been in office for 40 years, and they think that they can literally take their finger and wag it in your face like he did to you at that conference. I mean, let me paint the contrast. Since the beginning of April, I've conducted over 70 interviews with local, state, and national media. Some of them one-on-one, some of them open press conferences, and it's something that we see Sherrod Brown running away from all over the place. I mean, the guy's just afraid of his public record, and he's a real hypocrite. He's a hypocrite, when it comes to energy issues. He tries to be, kowtowed to the radical environmentalists in Washington and try to be a different person back home, but that's catching up to him. He's a real hypocrite when it comes to issues in respect to domestic violence and women's issues.
Right.
And you could probably read about that all over the internet, and just in general, the guy's a hypocrite. He does one thing and says another, and unfortunately for him and fortunately for us, it's catching up to him. The new age with YouTube and fast-moving information on the internet
Yes.
is keeping old dogs like Sherrod Brown from being able to continue the old tricks. And unfortunately, leveraging technology and getting a lot of folks involved who have never been involved in political campaigns is putting us in a place to win this thing. And we're hopeful that by winning in Ohio, we'll not only help take back the majority for the Senate, but we'll help Mitt Romney across the finish line in the battleground state of Ohio.
And we need as many red Senate seats as possible. I so appreciate your time today. The website is electmandel, MANDEL.org. We need every Senate seat possible.
You know what, Dana? That's actually not our website.
Oh.
We don't even... Interestingly enough, we don't even know who those people are.
Oh, then let's not do that then. No.
So our website is joshmandel.com.
JoshMandel.com. I'm so glad you said that.
JoshMandel.com. Now, that Elect Mandel website, we saw them on the internet, and it seems like they're doing good work out there, but we've never communicated with them. We don't know who they are. We just saw that website on the internet, so we're trying to learn about them as well.
Excellent. JoshMandel.com. Well, Treasurer, I so appreciate you being on the program. I know we'll be talking to you again. Best of luck in Ohio, and continue to shrink that gap in the polls. It's coming.
Hey, Dana, I'll be on anytime. You call anytime.
Excellent. Thanks so much, sir. Have a great afternoon. Thank you for your service.
Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.